if the Sussexes are trying to be inclusive, trying to bring more and more people in, regardless of ethnicity, race, religion, and sexual predilections, then I think polo would be probably the last thing I would think of. My name is Michael Cole. I'm a former BBC royal correspondent. I was also the media and arts correspondent. And I've been a journalist, believe it or not, for 62 years in newspapers, news agencies, radio, and television.
What do you think of the announcement of some more Netflix Harry and Meghan series?
His Royal Highness Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and his lovely wife, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, are now having to sing for their supper. It says in my excellent edition of the Times newspaper today, and I believe it to be true, the Sussexes signed a 5-year production deal with Netflix in 2020, said to be worth $100 million. Now, Netflix is a very hard-headed professional company. They don't throw money away. They want a buck for their money. They want product. They want new things. And part of the new things that are coming up, shows which are called unscripted input, are a show that Meghan, the Duchess, is going to be doing about cooking and all things culinary in the kitchen. And the Duke, Prince Harry, is going to be doing a series about polo. That's not water polo, that's polo on horseback, hockey on horseback. Now, I don't think that in the southern districts of Los Angeles, Watts and Compton, I don't think they play much polo down there. They play perhaps basketball quite a lot, because polo is one of the most expensive and exclusive sports in the world. Apart from ocean-going racing, I would have say it is the most expensive sport. If you're playing polo, you need at least 2 polo ponies, preferably 4. You need at least 1 groom, preferably 2. It is very exclusive. It must be said that Prince Harry would probably be a good tutor, because I know him to be an excellent horseman, even better than his older brother, Prince William. He is a natural equestrian and he plays very well. And since he's been in America, he has played in 1 or 2 games. And polo is quite popular, particularly in California. If you saw the film Pretty Woman with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, you will remember there was a scene at a very upmarket Los Angeles polo game on a Sunday afternoon where Julia Roberts was dressed in a brown polka dot dress and a nice hat, looking like the lady she is. So polo has a certain clientele, but it is a very exclusive sport. And if the Sussexes are trying to be inclusive, trying to bring more and more people in, regardless of ethnicity, race, religion, and sexual predilections, then I think polo would be probably the last thing I would think of. There will be other things. And of course, Prince Harry has done brilliantly with the Invictus Games, which involves servicemen and servicewomen who've been injured in war and in other fraught and tragic circumstances. So they're going to be doing that about polo. She's going to be keeping in the kitchen. I think it's quite clear that she likes cooking. In fact, as a historical fact, she was cooking a chicken when he proposed to her at Kensington Palace in Nottingham Cottage. And she didn't know whether he was kidding or not. But so culinary treats play part of their love story. And when she had a podcast, when she was living in Toronto in Canada, she was running a podcast called The Tab. And I think that involved quite a lot of things about cooking and eating. She's very keen on all that stuff. And she's quite a gourmet, and she's very much into health foods and what you can do with them. So those are the two projects we know about. There may be other scripted projects, maybe even a film of a romantic novel that they may produce together. But the fact is, they have to earn money. They need money. They are in the marketplace. Their unique selling point is their royal status. And that can wear out quite quickly if you're not doing things. So they've got to keep doing things. Like a shark, they've got to keep walking, going through the water to keep surviving, because they have a very expensive lifestyle in their hilltop Camelot at Montecito, north of Los Angeles. And the security costs alone would make most of us blanch. 3 teams of burly men around the clock, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That costs a lot of money. And they've got to find that, and they've got all the other expenses in order to live to the standard to which they've become accustomed. So they've got to turn to, they've got to come good on this $100 million contract. Netflix will be waiting to deliver, and we'll see how good or otherwise these series are.
And as you mentioned, they had that 100 million estimate of a Netflix deal. But we saw last year, for example, that Spotify terminated their contract with Harry and Meghan. There has been frequent speculation about their Netflix partnership, especially in terms of a lack of output. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that perhaps these series are trying to make up for lost time?
They certainly have had their setbacks. And when Spotify dropped them, it was with a great resounding report. The boss of Spotify said some rather unkind things about them. In fact, on dropping them, he said he regarded them as a couple of grifters. Well, grifters is American slang for confidence tricksters, the people who get money by deception. So that was a very strong thing for them to say, and that was probably a very big income stream. You can bet that their agents, they've taken on new agents, top-rate agents, they will be saying to them, we've got to strike while the iron is hot. You are well known, you are popular, but we've got to make good on that. The problem Prince Harry has got is that he's got to do something he wouldn't have had to have done had he stayed within the royal family. If he'd stayed here, his life would have been ordained. He wouldn't have had to earn a living. His activities would be attuned to showing credit to the royal family, to the monarchy, to the British people. Now he's in the marketplace. He's got to earn his commercial living. And that means going out there and selling yourself. Well, at Buckingham Palace, there used to be a cast iron rule, a big no-no. No member of the royal family should use their royal status for commercial gain or allow other people to do so. That was very firmly the rule, and those who transgressed it came to regret it. It is a very difficult thing. Once you're a royal person, you have to stand above the fray, and you have to behave yourself in a completely different way, the way you would if you were earning a living. But Prince Harry has put himself into that position. He's got to pay for their lifestyle. It's very expensive. He's got to keep up standards. And they've got to keep moving forward, and they've got to keep the income stream going. Now, I think that is what is required here. I'm sure that other opportunities will come their way. But if you're doing that, that means you've got to turn up. And quite recently, it's been notable that whereas Prince Harry is happy to give recorded video messages at certain events, he hasn't turned up in person. And I think when people are buying a ticket and his name is on the invitation, then they probably expect him to be there. And if he's not there, if he's only there remotely in a recording, they may be disappointed. And one rule in show business is this: don't disappoint the public. Or if you do, be prepared to leave the stage.
And we saw with the Harry and Meghan Netflix series last time that it created you know, huge discussions with the public. There are lots of claims made against certain members of the royal family. How do you think that these new series could potentially impact relations with the royals and also the public?
The first series, Harry and Meghan, the 6-part series, I had to see every minute of it so that you don't have to. And of course, as you say, it was replete with accusations and insinuations and innuendo against members of the royal family. And that has continued since. It continued in his autobiography, written by a ghostwriter, which was published in January last year, called Spare. And it also continued in a book written by a supporter of theirs, a book called Endgame. And the allegations that were made were very wounding, very hurtful, very unkind against the King, King Charles III, and also about Kate, the Princess of Wales. Insidious, egregious, and toxic allegations, the worst of which was racism. Now, racism is an easy slur to make, but it's almost impossible to refute because you have to prove a negative. I am not a racist. Well, that is a very difficult position to put your sister-in-law in if you're Prince Harry or Meghan, and very unkind. And also, it translated. Also, the allegation was also extended to the king himself. I think what their agents, who are very shrewd people in Los Angeles, would have said to them, you've done that. You've done the royal bit. You've got to move on. In America, they always want what's new. What's the latest thing? The first thing they'll say to you, what are you doing next? That is the thing that happens in America. Britain is the home of nostalgia, of looking back. That is why the old broken down Hollywood stars come over here and appear in pantomime or do things you wouldn't expect them to do, or appear in advertisements on television. They do that because Britain likes to look back and likes to cherish the stars of the past. In America, it's different. It's what's next. It's the land of novelty and surprises. And in show business in particular, it's your next production that is important, not what you did before. So their agents, top bunch of people, will be saying to them, okay, you've done Meghan and Harry, you've had 6 hours of that. You've written the book, or your ghostwriter has written the book Spare. Now, let's not downplay that. It was the biggest selling autobiography ever written. I'm not quite sure, nobody's ever seen Harry read a book. We're not quite sure whether he ever has, and we're not sure that he actually read his own book. But if he did, he will know that it sold huge numbers for an autobiography, a factual work around the world. So they've squeezed that lemon, or an orange, as they're in California. They've squeezed that Californian orange pretty well dry. They've got to come up with new things. No doubt they will. What is happening now is that Meghan has a very, very astute brain. She's been trained in Hollywood. She knows how the system works. And what she's doing now is she's curating their image. She's curating her husband's image. She's making sure that the way they come out, the way they are perceived, the way they are heard, the image that they give is the image they want the world to see. So they are taking great pains to present themselves in a sympathetic way. I'm sure that they'd say it is a factual way, and that's what we really are. It's for the rest of us to judge whether that's true. But that is the course they've taken, because when you're in the marketplace, you have to keep selling. And if you have an expensive lifestyle, which they do, you have to keep selling very, very rapidly and very, very profitably. At the moment, I'm sure they're doing very well, but it's a question of what happens next year and the year after.
And you talked about how, you know, the royals, the royal bit, they've done it now. They've had their series, they've got the book. But, you know, the royal family, it's so well known across the world. That's sort of their USP, isn't it? Their unique selling point is being parts of the royal family. How difficult do you think it's going to be for them to try this rebrand? You know, we've seen Meghan coming out with a well-being lifestyle brand recently.
When you're a member of the British royal family, that's it. You're a member of the British royal family. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. You are just who you are. It's there in front of everybody. It is undeniable for what it's worth. If you are moving outside the royal family, you have to justification of existence. What are you going to do? What is your Joe? We know your USP is that you have your semi-detached members of the royal family, but now you've got to justify your existence. You've got to make your way in a commercial world, and you've got to appeal to a wide spectrum of the public. Well, I don't think many of us ride polo ponies and play polo on a Sunday afternoon and go to Smith's Lawn and all the other posh places around the country and in America where they play polo. So that's a niche interest. People will look at it because who is presenting it? Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. But after that, will it have a widespread appeal? And of course, it's very, very expensive to produce a series of that kind. High production values, big crews. You only have to look at the credits of any motion picture. They go on for almost as long as the film. There are so many people involved. So it's not an inexpensive business. But the thing is, Netflix will be standing there and saying, time to ante up. You've got to give us something. We've invested this money in you, and we think you've got prospects, but we've got to prove it. And the only way that is going to be proved by hits or by selling tickets or by attracting commercial interest. That's their problem. They are completely wedded to a commercial way of life. There is no way around it. Perhaps they will succeed triumphantly, or perhaps they won't. And then they'll have to downsize and think about a different form and way of life. We shall see. But the first two series will be interesting to watch. But I think there will be the first thing that everybody who has got any cooking qualifications, who has some experience of this, who has made their name writing about cookery, they will look at it very quizzically, and they will ask themselves, does she know what she's talking about? She's not Julia Childs, is she? She's not Delia Smith. She's not Nigella Lawson. So who is she, and why has she? What has she got to offer us that we don't already know about? Also, people are very canny. They're very shrewd. They're very astute. And if there is too much hard sell, if she's saying, "Look at this apron that I've got. You can buy it for $11.99," or "Look at this lovely bowl. It's available from our company for whatever the price she likes to name," I think people will say what it is. It's television shopping. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, I've done 8 programs myself on QVC in the past. Nothing wrong with it, but it's not quite what you expect from members of the royal family to be peddling goods by using their names.
Do you almost think that, you know, doing these series and sort of selling your image, it's almost doing damage to their image then?
I think they've got to be very, very careful. They've got to do things which enhance their personal standing and don't detract from who they are. Of course, if it's done with quality, if it's done with style, if it's done with humor, if it's done with personality, if it's something that anybody who doesn't even know who they are might watch and get something out of, and might learn something, and might enjoy it, and might even applaud it, that's one thing. But if you're doing something which depends solely on who you are rather than what you are, I think they've got a problem.
Thank you so much for talking to me, Michael Cole.
A pleasure.